Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with some hot foiling. I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Intricate Floral Background hot foil plate. I did a video last week, I think it was last week, using this plate and dry embossing with it, which I will link at the end of this video if you haven't seen it. It's a great way to get more use out of your hot foil plates, you know, that sort of thing. So I had done it using it that way. This time I'm going to foil with it. So I have my Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil machine and it's turned on. I've got the plate on there. I put it on an angle. I honestly don't know if it makes a difference. You know, it sometimes helps with actual wafer dies to put things on an angle, like especially if they have straight edges when you're running them through your die cut machine. Like if you hear that big crack sometimes when you're die cutting like a rectangle or a square, put it on an angle. Goes through much better. Anyway, I had the plate, the green light came on. So I put my foil with the pretty side facing the foil plate. I used Hammermill smooth white cardstock, the two shims, and then press the timer button. When the timer button went off, ran this through my Spellbinders Platinum 6, and then remove everything and peel off the foil, and voila. And then yes, you can reuse that foil with a solid foil plate if you have that. I get hit and miss results with that thing. However, I'm going to do something a little later that I'd used the solid hot foil plate on. I'll get to that. Anyway, I've got my background. It's gorgeous. So I'm going to do some ink blending over it. This is for this week's color throwdown challenge. And I was like, ooh, these colors would look really nice blended together. And yeah. So I have 3 different Simon Pawsitively saturated inks. I have LIMELICIOUS, Surf, and Royal. And I just put them in my inkstand holders just to hold everything in place so my ink pads aren't sliding all over the place. And then the paper, I just put some of Simon's dot adhesive on the back of it. It's not a temporary adhesive, but that's kind of how I use it. I just like using that stuff to like anchor things in place for a bit. And yeah, it works. So I've got that adhesive on the back of the paper, and then I'm just holding it in place on my glass mat here. Because since I'm blending the whole thing, if I was only like ink blending a portion, I would just use the magnets you can see there. I will link to the magnets and that washi tape just because it's obvious and people will ask like, where'd that rainbow washi tape come from? That rainbow washi tape is from Altenew, by the way, and I think it might be getting discontinued, sadly. I bought it just because it was rainbow and then realized it's perfect to create my little washi tape handles on these large bar magnets. So anywho. I blended the colors onto the background, starting in the center, so the LIMELICIOUS, and then the Surf, and then the Royal, using my blending brushes. I need to make a habit of like using my glass mat more often because blending from glass is just so much easier. Like it's like the way ink just moves on it and then like pulling it on. Even though with this, I'm not worried about the very edge because I am going to cut this down a little bit. Right now it is A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I did my blending. I went back and forth a little bit just to smooth it out. As it dries, it will smooth out even more. Right now it looks not quite smooth, you know, but it will look fabulous when it's dry. So I'm not too concerned about it. And also, as always, you know, my camera, I swear it makes my blending look really weird. But anyway, did all that. I used my cloth to wipe over because you can blend obviously on top of foil. Another note I was going to add, don't use too much pressure. You don't want to like refund anything you foiled. I've never had a problem like ink blending, things like that. But like if you're really going hard, like you can start removing the foil. But I just use light pressure and you're good to go. So once I had that blended, I die cut more cardstock using the You Did It wafer die. And then same thing, I put some dot adhesive on the back of it and then adhered this, you know, temporarily to my glass mat and then blended my inks. You could do the blending and then die cut, whatever floats your boat. A lot of times I like blending after just so I can like visually see exactly, you know, where the areas are that I want to add ink because, you know, I want all 3 colors on this die cut. I was originally going to do this in gold, you know, as is tradition, but I thought, I was like, ooh, I really like these colors together. I don't know. You can't go wrong with like kind of celery green and aqua and blue. Like It's just great. So I blended that onto the cardstock. And then, like I said, I die cut the main panel down to be slightly smaller than A2 sized. And I also die cut some more pieces of white cardstock. And then I die cut the outline for the You Did It wafer die from vellum. So I'm going to stack the words together. So I've got that dimension that I love, just using some craft tacky glue. So once those are stacked together, I'll put the glue on the back of this and then adhere that to the vellum outline. I wasn't originally going to use the vellum outline. It just depends sometimes on my mood, whether or not I use the outline with words, but it helps it stand out a little bit more because this is still like a very busy background and it's going to get busier. I'm going to make a flat shaker. I haven't made one of these in forever. I think I have a playlist, like as I'm like doing this voiceover. If I don't, I need to actually make one, because I've done so many videos using flat shaker cards and foiling and all that stuff. So anyway, I just use recycled packaging most of the time. This was actually packaging that Simon's cardstock comes in, so I always save that packaging because it's great to cut down. I get multiple, shaker panels out of it. So I just trimmed down a piece to be bigger than this card base, and then I applied Simon's red line adhesive around the perimeter. Start removing the adhesive and then just folding over the edges of this packaging. For whatever reason, I don't know what, maybe again because I haven't made one in so long, I was being extra and adding extra pieces of the red line adhesive after I was folding over the pieces of the packaging, which you don't really need to do. I've shown this in other videos. Like I was, I think, completely overthinking it at this point. It's kind of funny when I go, get the time to start like editing and I'm like literally asking myself, it's like, what were you thinking? So anyway, you adhere 3 sides, you leave the 4th open, and then you start filling with all the shaker goodness because that is all the fun. So I used 2 different sequin mixes. I used Midnight Sparkle and Seashore and just went really heavy handed with these. Just again, why not? So dumped a bunch in, shook it up really well to mix up, and then flipped it back over, removed the backing from the adhesive, added extra pieces because again, I was just being extra. So added extra pieces, peeled off those, sealed it up, and then you're good to go. So it's all sealed. It's fine. I always like to take my scissors and trim off the kind of corners of the folded over pieces of that packaging just so they don't peek out past the card front when you adhere this to your card base. It just keeps everything looking a little cleaner, which again, this time I probably didn't really need to do because I had added all that extra adhesive. But anyway, got everything adhered, got everything filled and shakery and fabulous. And then to adhere the die cut sentiment to the card front, I went with glossy accents. Craft Tacky Glue actually works for this really well as well. Collage Medium, Ranger Multi-Medium Matte. Any good adhesive that can work on multiple types of surfaces works to adhere to acetate. So I adhered that, set it aside. I have my card base here and I put it in my MISTI, and I have sentiments from the CZ Design Yay You set, and I use this one Slay every day. I can't say most of these sentiments without, they just kind of make me laugh, and yet they're great, encouragement and like yay you, congrats, all those things. So I decided, since there's 3 words in the sentiment and they're on 3 different lines, it was just easy to mask off each one with just Post-it tape and then ink up each word with one of the different colors. So the LIMELICIOUS, the Surf, and the Royal. And again, loved how that turned out. It just gives it that little extra something. And it was quick and easy to do, So yeah, ink that up, working my way from top to bottom. This, of course, really helps when you have a MISTI or a stamp positioner. And then I lined up another little sentiment from that set and then stamped that on the inside of the card. And then I grabbed a scrap of just white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp another little companion sentiment on to that with the Royal ink. And then off camera, I'm going to trim that down because I'm going to add that to the front of the card. Got to have a little sub sentiment sometimes. So got that stamped and then trimmed it down. And then this is what I talked about. I have this piece of cardstock that I had foiled one of the new butterfly hot foil plates from Simon. I'll use those in a future video, but I'd used the leftover with the solid hot foil plate and got solid butterflies, you know, and I didn't want to waste all those bits of cardstock because, you know, it's all shiny and pretty. So I took that and I die cut it with one of my old go-to favorites, the Flickering Butterflies wafer dies. So first off, I adhered that little sub-sentiment using my T-square ruler, and my big old head and messy bun on top of my head got in the way, but got that adhered with the glossy accents, and then I just adhered some of these little foiled butterflies. Again, I could have just die cut Simon's, you know, gold cardstock, etc., but this was all sitting here, so why not? So I adhered that with glossy accents as well. And then the remaining little die cut butterflies I put back in the packaging with that wafer die. I keep all of those because, you know, I like adding little vellum ones, etc., depending on what cards I'm making. So every time I pull out that die set, I've got all these little already die cut pieces, and it's perfect. So I adhered the card front to the card base with Craft Tacky glue. Put my Misty on top of that to hold everything down until it was adhered. And then this card is complete. So it's shaky with its, you know, you can't not play with it. It's so fun. So it's shaky and shimmery, and you got the foiled background and the colors, and just, it's fun. It was a lot of fun to make. So, as always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have a supply list. I'll link to all the supplies I used. You can check that out below if you're interested, as well as over on my blog, which is always linked directly below. And in the blog post, I've got picture links. Everything's easier to find over there. So, thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting. Very much appreciate it. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.